1, go live, and it's buffering. Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to my first ever university lecture live stream. I have never done this before, but as you can see, I'm giving a presentation via Skype at Grand Valley State University with Professor, I admit that I've never actually, we talked a lot via email. How do I pronounce your name? It's spelled very unusually.
I'm James Vlisides. I'm Greek.
Vlisides. Okay, I almost said like
velocity with an I.
Velicity?
Yes. There you go.
Got it. Awesome. And I'm going to toss it off to you to do the intro for me and for your class, and then we'll get into this YouTuber discussion thing.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm James Vlisides. I'm the professor of Lib 310, that's all of you, here at Grand Valley State University. And we're talking about creativity. So what is a creative process versus creative objects, and politics, philosophy, culture, all those areas. And we just finished a section on video games and creativity. We've been trying to discuss our video games, something that can help change the world and solve the world's problems. But we've also done extensive critiques of the ideologies that exist within narratives in video games. And we read Jane McGonigal's Reality is Broken. She has a really interesting perspective on it all. And I reached out to you because I thought you had this incredible perspective on taking philosophical commentary and adding it to video game gameplay. I've been following you for about 3 years, so I'm kind of in fan mode right now.
Okay,
so
cool.
This is awesome. I had no idea you would actually respond. But I showed one of your videos in class, and they responded well, had some great questions. I know that you just hit 1 million subscribers, so congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
And you have about 200 million views on your channel, so you're doing work that I think is really meaningful and very creative, and you're using video games in a very educational way. So I'm honored that you're here to speak to us. I'm thankful that you're all open-minded to do this with me, and I'll pass it over to you to start answering some questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the nearly infinite compliments. That wasn't expected. Okay, so we'll start off. So you sent me some questions via email, and those are like perfect launching points for the stuff in the class and the talk. So the first question you sent me, I'm reading over here, is you referenced the book Reality is Broken, and you said the author touches on a point where we play so many video games we begin to feel as if we're missing out on reality. And do you reach this point? And my answer to that is yes, I absolutely do. So as you know, I do this for a career, right? Like this is an actual big boy job, and I pay my bills and stuff and get my fat dogs their dog food. But I play a lot of video games. On an average day, it's easily 8 to 12 hours, sometimes more. I'm not streaming now. Like some of the streamers will stream 10 hours a day. That's crazy. But I got a lot of research, got to get content ready, record, and I try not to be bad, you know. I'm not a pro player, but I try not to just be terrible at games. So I do have to put a lot of time into it, and I really do miss out on real world stuff. Like sometimes I'll sit down and I look up and like, oh God, it's dark outside. I missed the entire day. Or I'll just sit down and I'm like, oh man, where did these 6 hours go? I was supposed to do all these other kind of things, and reality kind of slips by. And in college, especially near the later into college where it was picking up, I missed out on a lot of parties and social events and stuff like that because I was working on all this YouTube stuff. And did we lose audio? I see you on the computer here.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm
Okay,
writing
good.
down things you're saying. Cool.
So yeah, that definitely happens. You don't have to write, dude. This is all going to archive as video. So
I know. This is like questions I want to ask you later. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. No worries. And the next part of this, it's like, since this is your career, do you reach points where you feel conflicted or you're able to separate work and play? So I am thankful to God or non-God or whatever deity you want to worship that I have a career that I like, right? Like I really like playing video games. So my work is coming in here and playing Call of Duty or League of Legends or streaming or doing something like this, which I consider to be very fun. It's not fun every single day. There are some days I would rather just sleep in, which I'm sure that many of you have experienced in evening classes. There are days where I just don't want to play COD, like Fallout came out. I want to play Fallout, I just don't have time to play Fallout because I'm focusing really hard on being good at Call of Duty and getting the best tips, and some of these other things go along the wayside. But most of the time, I enjoy what I do, and for most of the gamers and other streamers I know, which is quite a lot of them, people that many of you are familiar with, I'm going to say like the vast majority of them also love video games. I don't know very many people, and I wouldn't name names because it'd be insulting for them, that hate playing games. I can think of maybe like 2 other commentators or streamers that just hate the games they play and they want to be done, but they're addicted to the money. But like the other 1,000 or so, they just like playing games. They really do. I mean, yeah, they might get tired if they specialize in one thing, but like a lot of the COD people got tired of COD during Ghost or whatever, and a freakish amount of them started playing League of Legends in little secret groups. So they still like games, they just moved over to something different. And I'll move on to the next question because I think we're done with this one. It says, have you tried sharing your message/knowledge in other mediums aside from video games?
Right.
Okay, this is a little embarrassing, but I'll go ahead with it. I used to do clans back in the day. If you guys remember what clans were before we had professional gaming teams, right? You would play clan matches and scrim other people and do little online ladders and stuff. So I managed a clan with a really embarrassing name that I will not mention here on stream. And it was successful in the fact that it lasted a long time, and we were good at one game, but then we were awful at all the other games we tried to expand into, so it didn't work well. And I tried, as far as message and mediums, I tried to write blogs. Like, I think I ran a blog, or vlog, no, vlog. Blog. So it's been so old, I can't remember. Like, I had a blog and I tried to write these little essays and things about the meaning of life or whatever, and it was not so great, and it would get like 10 views a day, and it didn't really catch on. And I tried to write a novel at one point. I thought I was going to be some brilliant author, and I had I was pretty good at crafting a story, right? Like, I could create a story and the characters, and I could write bullet points and outlines and stuff, but when it came to writing literature, to crafting something that was fun to read, that was interesting, I was terrible. Like, speaking is okay, but writing diction is totally different. Like, as I would only write as I spoke, which my English teachers in high school hated, but it would just get really repetitive. It wasn't very fun, so I kind of scrapped all those, and I just kind of lucked out in this whole YouTube thing that it fit very well with what I wanted to do, and I've kind of enjoyed the ride all the way. I've got other questions, but do you want to interrupt me with some kind of something? You were writing down questions for later. We can take a random one right now.
Sure. Do you guys want to ask a question first?
Nope. Okay.
Well, you touched on how like video games can take you away from sometimes other obligations when you're playing for like 6 hours at a time. How do you deal with that in like personal relationships or your marriage?
Poorly. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I have a very understanding wife, and she knows that what I'm doing is important, and mostly that it makes money, and that's what makes it important. But poorly. There's no substitute for spending time with people, or like, you can't just not do something and then come up with an excuse and fix it. That's not reality. That's not how it works. So it's like anything else in life. You guys have probably seen the college triangle. You can choose between good grades, social life, or sleep, and you can only choose two. One of them is going to fail. I have the same problem sometimes. Sometimes I just have to choose this instead of doing anything different. I'm going to check on my chat right here. Sure. Things seem to be going pretty good over here. We'll move on to the next question. This was a fun one. What's your process for each episode? And you left a little compliment here. It says, you seem very well informed and articulated with your ideas and explaining them.
That was not my compliment. That was their compliment.
Okay, yeah, because the class wrote the questions, right?
Yes, they did, yeah.
All right. So I assume for each episode you were talking about in-depth, or were you talking about for the more philosophical type videos?
I don't know who wrote the question.
Okay, so I can do both pretty quick. So yeah. For in-depth, it's a guide series, right? Like, you make tutorials for YouTube, Call of Duty. So step one is always research, and it's kind of something I learned from university, because to write a paper, you have to reference other authors and stuff like that. So I get online and I look up what it is I'm interested in. A gun. We'll say a gun, because that's easy. We'll get a stat chart. We'll look at past games. We'll pull up pretty much any kind of info, and I'll read about it and kind of get an idea of how it should perform. Step number two is testing, if it's necessary. If it's doing something weird or you're not confident in your research, you test it out. And you got to make sure that things are on point. And then step three is where we move into production. I will go and get all of my gameplay in one like 4-hour binge. I will sit there and do just one thing in this game to get all the gameplay that I possibly can. And that's also kind of where I'm trying to make sure that the attachments are good or the strategy is good. Because sometimes you read something on paper and then you take it to practice and it's totally different and it just plain sucks. Right. So we have some adapting in there. Then I will go and I edit an in-depth episode, like the text. I edit all of those first, and I kind of use those as talking bullet points. I'll type in all like 20 or 30 pieces of text, and then I will record the voice and move through the pieces of text like an outline, and then finally we'll edit it all together, and I'll pray that I haven't made any mistakes and that everybody likes it, and that's kind of how it goes. For the philosophical stuff, that's different. That's more spur of the moment. Like, I'll be reading online, which is largely Reddit, I admit.
Love Reddit.
And you get on there on Today I Learned, and there's all kinds of random stuff, sometimes interesting, sometimes like, didn't everybody know that? And I just kind of bookmark. If I see an idea that's really good, I'll write it down on my board. Subscribers sometimes send in fantastic ideas. It's more like a 10-to-1, like probably 10 of the ideas are terrible and one of them is great. And when the mood strikes me and I feel like it's kind of, I want to make the world a better place with these little inspirational, like the thing on education. Hopefully, if any of these people end up in the educational field, maybe one day, years from now, they will remember something about that and maybe put in a personal finance class when they're managing a school, or it doesn't matter, any topic. And you research about it on the internet, of course, try to learn what you can, apply it, personal knowledge, and the idea is you take a general theory, talk about it, apply a couple of real-world examples that everybody can relate to, and then maybe try and push toward a behavioral change, and that's the general format for those episodes. Some of them are a little more random, they come straight to the heart, you just got to talk about something important, but generally not so much. And we're adjusting the camera here?
We're okay, keep going.
Okay, cool. Wow, I talked about that like forever. So I will move on to the next little question we have. It says, do you feel very ignored for your use of video games and YouTube? It says you share a lot of important and interesting information, but does sharing them over YouTube and video games cause some people to criticize you or discredit your ideas? Philosophical stuff is not normal for gaming. Let's be real here. Like, I think the only person that does that is Hutch and maybe like a couple other people randomly. It's kind of an offbeat audience, and I'm a little bit, I would say the answer to that question is a little bit. Like, sometimes I'm envious of the people that run vlog channels. You guys might be familiar with the vloggers. These guys can turn on their webcam just like what I'm doing right here and talk about anything. They can talk about how Gaston sucked in The Beauty and the Beast, or they can go talk about the Jar Jar Binks Sith theory, or they can talk about how some dude at Subway was too high to make their sandwich and put on the bread wrong, or like a guy will turn on and talk about transgender issues, whether he be trans or not. That's relevant. But you go down the hole. But the people are intensely interested in that person, in that personality, in their manner of speaking, in their editing. They really want to hear what they have to say, which is different because on my channel, it's largely based around the gameplay. Like when I did vlogs, they were just not nearly as popular as the actual gameplay stuff. Or the philosophical videos are very rarely as popular as a video game guide or something like that. And it's not because my audience is stupid. That's not the case, or that they don't care, so to speak. But the internet is infinite, right? It is like you can niche to oblivion on the internet. You can think like Rule 34 with porn. If you can imagine a type of porn, it exists. It's the same type of thing with other content, though. And people, they very much so specialize. So they subscribe to me because they want gaming tips. So when something comes up that's not gaming tips, it's like, what the hell is this? I can get this at 90 other places. I didn't really want this from you, so it's not always their thing. And the other part of this is like, do you feel that people discredit you? So not everybody's interested, but I don't feel discredited. Like nobody tries to come in and poo-poo on what I'm doing too much, except, YouTube comments, of course, because those can get savage, right? Like those can get crazy. Bush did 9/11, Lizard Squad, reptilians took over our government, whatever. But and opposite, I feel that oftentimes people I meet in real life overcredit me for simple things. Like we started this interview with way more compliments than I ever would have given myself. Or you talk about the philosophical ideas. I guess it might be a confidence issue. I'm not trying to self-hate or whatever, but I didn't think any of them were that insanely complex or amazing or mind-blowing. A lot of them were freshman level type stuff, and I just try to explain it in an easier way to comprehend or expose it to an audience that might not have heard it. I definitely wouldn't count myself as a philosopher or scientist, or I'm not out there with Sagan, right? Like I'd probably mopping Sagan's floors in the university.
Well, I think that's the point, though. It's not that your message is necessarily unique. It's that the process of educating people in this particular creative medium is what makes it so exceptional. We talk about digital literacy and the ability to understand how media affects your real life in a practical way, and I think that's what makes what you do interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you. Do you want to do any questions, or do you want me to keep on moving down this list?
Do you guys have anything immediately? Let's get one before. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that that there is a niche for this kind of discussion over video game play? Right now you talk about how most people that come to your channel are looking specifically for guides, hints, tips, whatever. Do you think that down the line somewhere that if someone influenced by you might potentially influence more people to eventually have this sort of discussion and kind of transform the medium in that way?
I'm going to say yes, because I believe the niches can be almost infinite. And because some people are already doing this, I don't think it's going to be as popular as general appeal type stuff like what I'm doing it, but there are lots of people that are already doing that with varying levels of success on different topics. And yeah, there's definitely the ability to do that. And I think, what is it, the Game Theorist, or is it, there's a couple of people that do a much better job than I do at philosophy on games and are quite popular.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
Cool. We'll go back to the list here.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, this is a fun one. What are some certain topics that are sort of taboo to talk about? Oh, boy. All right. There are lots of topics that are taboo to talk about, both for gaming and the internet in general. An obvious one, it's the same kind of thing as dating, right? You don't talk about, what were the things for dating? We don't talk about religion, sex, or politics or something like that.
Money.
Yeah, money, that's a big, yeah. So religion is a huge one on the internet. The internet, for various reasons, is just predominantly going to be atheist dominated. I have no idea what religious background you guys are, but if you get on the internet and you come out as a strong Christian or a strong Muslim or a strong anything, be prepared for a whole army of butthurt atheists to come in and say lots of unpleasant things. Some of them are kind, some of them are philosophical, but some of them are like the 14-year-olds. It's like, all right, let's see how edgy I can get today. And they're just going to slam you, right? That's rough. The internet is not a good place for religion. Religion also doesn't mix very well with gaming for a different reason. So gamers as a whole, gaming is not like a specialized thing anymore, right? Like gaming is mass to the public. Like if you go watch the Super Bowl, there's advertisements for Star Wars or whatever. There probably will be for this year, the games. And if you were to take like 1 million gamers, like take my followers, 1 million gamers from North America, you will find that they are of every single religious background you can imagine. There is Christian, atheist, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist. Random examples, I bashed on Scientology one time. You're probably all familiar with that. I had a guy send me an angry message because he was a dead-fast Scientologist and I insulted his religion. I traveled to Singapore on the exact opposite side of the planet and visited a shrine that my in-laws made of their ancient like family gods and goddesses, and I made little jokes like, oh, this looks like the cast of Big Trouble in Little China. I had several of my fans extremely pissed off because they lived in that region and would go worship at that shrine. The religion, it's so mass appeal and so broad, you can't mention one religion without offending the other, so I generally try not to do that at all. Let's see, yeah, it's really... And besides, discussions on religions turn the comments super toxic, which isn't very fun. I do touch political stuff on occasion, as you've seen. But I try to do it in a more general, exploratory sense. Like, I actually do try to pretend like I'm in a university or a high school giving a lecture and try not to put my personal opinion out there because people, especially in the United States, where most of my audience is based, politics are very divisive. People genuinely dislike the people on the other side of the political aisle, especially on the internet, where you don't have to see them face to face. You can just click unsubscribe or whatever. But if I came out and said, I am a Democrat, there'd be like 10,000 people just poof, unsubscribe. Or if I came out and said, I support Donald Trump because I'm a Republican, whatever, poof, unsubscribe. So I try to keep my personal political stuff out and go more general explaining. And as if of the political videos you've seen, probably like 90% of them, instead of pushing a certain point, is just trying to help people understand that there is more than one side to either point, and that a person that believes differently than you probably has either fundamentally different motivations or backgrounds or understandings of how the world works, and instead of being a terrible, horrible person, straw man type thing, they just think differently and they're not evil. So I do focus on that, but I can only talk so much political stuff before stuff gets really, really crazy, and I try not to push too many of my subscribers away. What's another one? Well, certain areas you want to be able to explore but are not able to. ISIS. I would love to make a video about ISIS. I don't want to be dead. No, you laughing? Right? Like, how many YouTubers, gaming or otherwise, do you see talking about ISIS?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Yeah, they just had death threats sent out.
Yeah, I get death threats just, and I talk about religion and stuff. If I make like Arabic jokes or like Muslim jokes, death threats pile in for me. I have a gun in every room in my house and I have security cameras. Wow. It's like I'm out in front of 1 million people, but I'm not Tom Cruise, right? I don't get to travel around with 8 ex-Navy SEALs armed to the teeth. It's just me and my little house and my fat dogs. So I try not to piss people off. ISIS is a big one. Or like Anonymous, they think they're going to be brilliant and hack the drug lords in Mexico. They decapitated them.
Yeah.
I can't go and make a video on drug cartels because I live in Dallas and they're here, right? and what am I going to do about it? I'm not John Rambo. I can't go kill them all, right? So that's a big one. Talking about global events and politics is interesting for me. Not so much for the subscribers. Like, they're just generally not interested in it. And when you talk globally instead of locally, I have a tendency to goof things up, or you miss things in translation or local cultures and languages. So it's easy to think you really know what's going on and just be wrong as hell. And I try not to do that too much. What else? Engineering stuff.
Oh, sorry. And when you talk about stuff like that, it's fascinating, especially with your main focus being on Call of Duty games that are, hyper examples of the ideology against, like, Russian ultranationalism or Middle Eastern terrorism or the African militia and that homogenization of the enemy. And so, like, playing a game that sort of makes a spectacle of that difference. It's really interesting that you want to be able to talk about that, and you're not allowed to, but you're allowed to play that, and that's okay.
I feel you. It's it's some Call of Duty games, or I think this happened to Drake and Resident Evil. It's like, let's kill all the brown people.
Right.
That could be the plot of the game,
right.
Basically. Like, it's like, oh, there's something happening in Genericastan. Let's go blow it up. And I'm trying to talk about all this high-level stuff, and I'm blowing up, like, Hajis or whatever, and, like, stereotypes. And no, it's a weird duality there. And I've actually had not one but two former soldiers send me emails or messages and tell me that I'm a horrible person because Call of Duty in general it's pro-military, right? It's ultimately fairly right-wing kind of pro-military. America rocks.
Right.
Let's go invade Angola, whatever,
Yes.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And they're like, I played this game, I was into these movies and this type of media, and I joined the army and now I'm in a wheelchair, or now I have PTSD, and that by me making these videos and encouraging other people to either watch the videos or play the game or whatever, I'm kind of proning them or prepping them for joining the army and ruining their lives, and he was really salty about it. So
wow.
I don't know, I didn't know where to go with that one. I just felt sad for a while.
That's heavy, yeah.
Engineering stuff is fun. Like, so I have a background in engineering, so math is occasionally interesting for me when I'm not in, like, double derivative hell. And there are some engineering topics that are fun, but when it comes to making a video about engineering, you talk about thermal efficiencies or this kind of thing, and like, if you're not doing it the Discovery Channel style where you have, like, CGI spaceships flying around the moon, it's not interesting. And it's also really boring to find, like, every little ASCII key for each little weird symbol and it's too meticulous for me. And I think you said, oh, what did I want to do in the future? Oh,
We're okay. I'm just making sure they are.
okay. I want to do more stuff about movies and comic books now that fair use is lightening up a little bit and I can use some clips and talk about some stuff. That's kind of something that I really want to do, and it should be fun. Like, I love comic books. I read a lot. I don't know if you can see behind me here. This
we
is
can. Yeah.
some of my comic books. I just turned the chair. Like, I just like them. I had to read too many serious adult books in college and high school, and I read The Watchmen and fell in love, so I've been reading a lot of comics. The Sandman series by Neil Gaiman is fantastic if you ever want to read it, but it's very difficult. I see a few people nodding their heads like they've read it. This guy on the left. Yeah, my left. Anyway.
Neil books in general are awesome, so.
Right? American Gods?
Yeah.
Very good. So that'll be fun. And like I mentioned earlier, like Jar Jar Binks' Sith theory, I would love to make a video on that. But it's kind of like, do I really want a copyright strike? I've got copyright strikes for black screen. A company owns a black screen. Company owns a white screen. Company owns no sound whatsoever. Company owns static. Way back in the day, I see this dude, his eyes getting big when I say that. I had a Ghostbuster poster in my background, like Ghostbusters, with the ghost and the cross and holding up the, I got a strike because I don't own the image to the Ghostbusters poster.
Interesting.
So, but all that's kind of loosening up a little bit. So in the future, I do want to do more movie-type content, movie reviews. I think I did one like a Halloween movie guide recently, and I really cut corners. I don't know if you saw it or not. But I did no clips. I used images and I made them small and I flipped them around and distorted the colors and stuff because giant companies just have robots on YouTube and they just have their little options and they'll just be like, click strike everybody, and they don't even think about it. So people with like whole careers and lives on YouTube get their stuff ruined instantly.
Wow.
No more monetization for you. It's awful. So that really kind of blows.
How does that work with games like Call of Duty?
It works with game companies own their games, and they also own the rights to any footage created from their game engine, because their game engine generates all the artwork assets that you would be using.
Okay.
But they realized relatively early on that YouTube is free marketing.
Right.
Even if you're kind of bashing the game, it's still free marketing.
Right.
But because U.S. copyright law requires you to protect your copyrights in order to, like, so if you go to court and they're like, you haven't enforced your copyright in 10 years, you can lose it, right? So they had to restrict them, but they couldn't deal with all the requests to grant copyrights to 1 million people, and they can't grant it to everybody. So what they did is they partnered with networks. I think Machinima pioneered this, but all networks have it. So like, I'll say Activision or EA or whatever, they will sell the rights to their footage from their game engine in bulk to like 5 companies. And then these 5 companies will subcontract a bajillion people, me being one of them, and that's how it works. It's in a very legal gray area, but it's mutually beneficial for all parties, so nobody cares. That's how that works.
Very cool.
Okay, moving on. That was a super long question. I'm looking at the chat. Fellow with the beard, you have had many compliments about your scarf. I just thought you should know. literally hundreds of scarf compliments. Yep.
What?
Huh? And let's move on. It says, okay, there's a question. Do you think you limit the efficacy of the argument by doing it solo? Would it be more constructive to do it in a dialogue and interview form? This is one of those college questions. I'm going to say no, because most of what I'm doing is about putting out some kind of message. And I feel that if you want to put out a pure message, like a direct, straight drill into somebody, that's a gun, drill into somebody's brain, or just really like hit them in the heart, or whatever your analogy is, doing it solo is very, very effective. Even still, there's a reason that great leaders gave speeches and didn't get up on stage and argue and debate with people. Somebody's raising a hand. Oh, are they trying to do bunny ears? What's going on back here?
Someone in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, but like, if you want to deliver a message, right, if you want to be heard, having a two-party dialogue is just not nearly as direct as just like this, just kind of hammering it out. It's like 80% me talking here today, I know. We'll get to the question and answer later. But when you also do a dialogue, you have a chance of the person that you're having the dialogue with doing one-upmanship, which especially on YouTube of like A-type, alpha, outgoing personalities, that's like all the time. So everybody kind of wants to dominate the interview and put their spin on it. And it's only useful, I feel, when it's an issue that you're impartial in. Like when you really don't believe that one side or the other has any particular merit, doing an interview is fine. Or if you need a kind of straw man to argue against, like if you need somebody you know is just completely opposite of you, and you want, I'll use politics here. Like let's pretend that you are a Republican and you want to get your message out to moderate Democrat voters. You would probably have a sit down with a Democrat, because they'll watch for that person, and they will get to hear your answers to their common beliefs, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I see it. Just personal opinion. It could be anything. Oh, this next one's fun. You guys will like this. A little turn of events here, and oh god, the chat just got. Ooh, okay. Ooh. I just glanced over at it, and there was some interesting things. Lots more scarf comments, which is good. And they like your tie, by the way. Just thought you should know. Says, do you have a role model? And the answer is no. I kind of left behind role models when I was a little kid. I was a pessimistic, cynical little kid, and I didn't really believe that all role models were perfect or anything like that. The last role model I had was Michael Biehn. Raise your hand if you know who Michael Biehn is. Awesome. Do you remember the original Terminator and Aliens movies? So the same guy that plays Kyle Reese plays Corporal Hicks, and I thought he was awesome because I had these on VHS, and I'm like, oh man, this guy killed a Terminator, and then he fought aliens? This guy is the best. So I wanted to be just like Michael Biehn so I could fight Terminators and aliens. That was my role model for a while, and then I just kind of lost track of that. And we'll do the last question before we do more questions and answers, and before I turn the chat loose on you guys. And then, oh, okay, oh, we got some compliments on the beanie now. Some people are saying the beanie guy looks sexy. That's you. And we got some on the well-dressed gentleman in the back with what I believe is blonde hair. Yep. Looking snazzy. Snazzy.
Oh, yes.
Somebody says, look, Eminem's on the right.
Here's your chance to be famous. Freestyle. Let's go.
Okay, so last question says, do you feel the need to be vulnerable in order to connect with your viewers? Love this question. For the content that I do, I think the answer is yes. And I think that in a very selfish kind of way, to be successful on YouTube or any type of entertainment, you want people to be interested in you. The focus has to be them in on you, and that's like the exact opposite of what you're ever taught in any sort of moral system or kindergarten or Sunday school or whatever, right? But that's how it is. And in order for people to be interested in you, you can do it one of two ways. You can either be relatable or mythical. It's like a spectrum, right? And if you get in the middle, you're a total failure, just because you're not interesting or relatable. So to be interesting or mythical, that's like a rapper. That's like bigger than life. That's like, oh man, not Jean-Claude Van Damme. Who is the member of the Expendables from Sweden who also has a degree in chemistry? Derp, 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 derp. No, the idea is you want to be super interesting. You want to be, oh, there's all these funny stories about Bill Murray, right, that makes him interesting. Oh, did you hear that so-and-so did this crazy thing? Did you know that Michael Jackson sleeps in a cryogenic chamber or whatever? Like, you want to be a super interesting person. Did you know that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a genius? I wonder how his mind works. You want to be like a little god, like above everybody, like everything you do is amazing, kind of. Or you can be relatable, not necessarily an everyman, but somebody really reaches out and connects with you. Like, I understand what your life is like, I understand these struggles, I totally feel you. Kind of like, random example, I know what 6 o'clock in the afternoon classes are like. I do, believe it or not. I had to do that. I see one person smiling in the back like, oh God, I wish I was at home. See, but you're smiling, and that's interesting. Or you could talk about like little gross stuff, like when you wake up in the morning and there's a pile of drool on the pillow, or just like little things like that everybody does, right? But it's very relatable, and it brings back memories in other people's brains. Sometimes funny, sometimes sad, but it hits those little kind of pleasure centers. I go for more relatable stuff. I'm not pretending to be mythical. Oh, I did have an example written down. PewDiePie would be mythical like that. PewDiePie, many people know, he's crazy. He's out of control. He does crazy stuff all the time. But if I want to be a real person, to be relatable, to have problems, to be able to speak honestly, I feel that being vulnerable is part of that, because real people are occasionally vulnerable. Nobody is perfect in every area. Everybody's weak. Even like the Mountain from Game of Thrones is 6 foot tall and he's breaking strength records all over the world. He has weaknesses, right? I don't know how he ties his shoes. That's a joke. But he could be emotionally sensitive in different areas, or he could be terrified of spiders. And vulnerabilities make people more real and relatable, and I think that just coming off honest, truthful me is better than fiction. Like, I am terrified of cockroaches. I hate cockroaches. If one got on me, I would probably scream like a girl and punch it and knock all this camera and stuff around. I don't know if any of you don't like cockroaches. I have reasons, and I could tell you interesting stories about my childhood, and it spirals off and gets interesting, like roaches in your food or in your hair and stuff, or I lived in a house with thousands of them. I can see this girl here getting unpleasant. I put on my underwear one time, and I felt something kind of scratchy, and I went to scratch, and I pulled a cockroach out of a place where he need not be. Yeah, I can see her. She doesn't really like this train of thought. But things like that, it goes from relatable to interesting really fast. And being vulnerable, fear of roaches, is a good kind of bridge. I hope that made sense. I freeballed that way more than I should have.
No, that's perfect.
Freestyled, not freeball. Freeball is very different.
Speaking of cockroaches.
Okay, so I think we're out of my questions. So I'm looking at my chat. They're posting phone numbers and stuff in here. I have no idea why. Okay. Oh boy. I'm not going to read all of these. No, we're talking about John Cena. So I saw you had some questions, and we'll just roll with random questions, and I'll fend whatever we can. Content creation, philosophy, whatever.
Cool. What else you got? Speak loud, really loud.
All right, so you've been talking about how people, like, for what you read, people are benefiting from it. Do you think people benefit from actual gaming at all?
In some ways, yes. There's a lot of studies that say gaming increases aggression. One of my old professors did this, so I had to go through his study, and he was not a big fan of me being like a professional gamer, whatever. But I do think that gaming is actually a very good vent for releasing aggression, especially for men. Realistically, men have higher aggression levels than women. We compete all the time. If you look at how little boys play, it's spirits and cowboys and Indians and fighting and killing and stuff like that. Being able to do that in a digital environment is infinitely better than doing it in real life. And I feel like if you look back, like, our world has gotten safer over the time, especially like in the last 30 years. Violent crime is down, like beating people up and calling them fags and kicking them in the dirt and stuff like that, way down. I think a part of that, definitely not all of it, is that guys can just play video games and kind of get that all over their system. It's like the best way for men to compete that doesn't hurt anybody, generally. And video games can be used therapeutically on occasion. I have a friend who served in Afghanistan. I'm not going to name names. He's got PTSD. It's not great all the time, but I hooked him up with an Oculus Rift. And this is a guy that doesn't sleep well because of PTSD. And I hooked him up on this, what's supposed to be a really relaxing, transcendent game where you fly around on an eagle in this cloud city. This dude fell asleep in my chair. No meds or anything. So of course there's benefits, but of course there's bad things too. You're less sociable face-to-face. You exercise less. That obviously has negative benefits on your body. And it does kind of prime your brain from a very early age for this instant kind of reward. Like, do X, get Y now. Level up fast. You don't... It's kind of like, oh, I went to the gym and exercised for 30 minutes. I should have abs now. Nope. That's not how that works. So we did get kind of off track there. So that's kind of the answer to the question. Oh, by the way, one of the guys from the chat says that the professor is super hot. Just thought you should know.
Thank you. A+.
All right. More questions?
What else you got? Yeah, go ahead.
So what came first? Was it the gaming passion that you have, or the philosophical kind of commentaries, or did it just kind of all happen at the same time?
Probably gaming first, because I've been gaming since literally as long as I can remember. This is as long as I've been able to remember I had a console and I played games.
Yeah.
But I was always very interested in storytelling. I liked telling my own stories even when I was like 5 years old, or writing them down, or they almost got me expelled from school occasionally. They were not always pleasant stories. And later on I got into reading and philosophy and stuff like that. So I didn't always do commentary like what you guys saw in class. I used to do Halo machinimas back in the day, like Red versus Blue. Like you go to theater mode and you could have your Halo guys like bob their head up and down when they were talking, and they could do little short stories or action sequences or something, and people were kind of making like their own Halo fan fictions or little comedy things, and I was using that to kind of tell stories back in the day, Halo, because it was like I wanted to make movies for a living at one point. I tried. I'm terrible at it, by the way. Don't ever watch any of them. But it's kind of like you get all your actors, all your kits, all your special effects in one little toolbox, and you can use that to make your own little movies, and I was doing that and telling stories. That went the way of the dinosaur. That's not popular anymore. So that transitioned relatively quickly into commentary and philosophy and just being able to orally tell a story.
Awesome.
All right, what's next? And by the way, we're about to hit, I think, 1,400 on stream. So that's good. That's actually very good. Oh,
That's
okay.
great.
Question.
Do you have any sisters?
None that are alive.
I was just wondering, just because you kind of had talked about how I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you discussed how you think that aggression is inherent in males versus being socialized into them. And just differing version of it, I grew up with a lot of sisters who were far more aggressive than I was, and I don't know if it's because it was like a single mom environment and she just socially had to be more aggressive and assertive, but I think that if that's the case, if it is a socialization thing versus just inherent aggression, then I think that the way we socialize with video games is going to affect that aggression. Obviously, if you're venting in a way that's nonviolent, that's a much better case, but I'm wondering if the need is there because we make it necessary to be there.
That is a really complicated question. I do not have sisters that are currently with us. I did not mean to say that women cannot be violent or aggressive. I have a wife, and I know that is absolutely not the case when some things go wrong. No, all jokes aside, of course women can be violent and aggressive and mean and all sorts of negative characteristics. I feel that it's just slightly more pronounced, or maybe moderately, depending on your point of view, more pronounced than men. biologically speaking. We are hardwired for some of these things more, and of course it is also cultural, because we've taught little boys to compete and fight and do all this stuff for ages and ages and ages. And you look at just the toys, right? What's a boy's toy? GI Joes, laser guns, Nerfs, swords, and you do all, or like for engineering they build stuff with Legos or whatever. Girls' toys, it's a doll, and it be's a doll, and you dress it up and make it pretty. And just even at that point, you're teaching different gender standards or stereotypes that they kind of take off to. So of course, yeah, totally different. The answer is both and everything. I guess that's a really big cop-out answer. I just think that competition is biologically more inherent in men, and of course our culture has more of it. And yeah, I think that was it. Or did I miss a point? That was a long question.
That was great.
Just want to give you some shit to talk about.
Okay.
You got any others?
You show us booming.
Yes, I can. But you're going to have to give me just a minute to hop off camera and go fetch him. And one other thing, I'm not wearing pants right now, so I have to get those on before I come back. So you work from home, right? I don't have a boss. I don't have any time I go to work. I don't have to wear clothes, right? I don't know if you guys realize how many videos I make just completely buck naked.
Oh, man. This changes everything. The question
but get the dog.
Turtle pair?
Huh?
Is it the Ninja Turtle pair you told us about earlier?
Oh, no. I have just literally underwear on.
Oh, okay.
I didn't expect to have to get up. So I can tell you how many times I've done like a professional interview and I'll put on like a nice shirt or whatever, and then nothing down here. But I'll find some exercise shorts. I think I see some hiding over here, and I will go grab my fat dog, and I will be right back. I'll give you all time to think of some more questions. And chat, the time is coming where you get to ask these guys any question you want, so think of some good ones, and I'll BRB.
That was smooth.
Pants acquired.
Oh, man. Is it going?
Oh, you fat lard, you're asleep. Oh, you're so fat.
Was it like $2?
He talked about multiple, but I've only ever seen the one. That he
How do you know
uses in
his
videos.
name?
Everyone is on the chat.
I know. I can't do
So I
both.
don't have headphones on, so I won't be able to hear you guys. But this
Okay.
is Boomy. He doesn't really look at the camera. He's deaf. He's also kind of obese. Hey, bud. You're a fat dog. See if I can get him up closer to the camera, huh? Oh, see if I can get you over here without hitting the mic. Hey, buddy. Yeah, what's up? You like being on the internet, bro? It's a special needs dog. He's deaf and paralyzed, and he's kind of like a fat baby, I guess. Hey, bud, what's up? Oh, you want bacon? You can't have any bacon. I'll get you blueberry pie later. Got it. Go sleep or do whatever it is you do. All right, back.
We got about 1,000 awes from the crowd, so that was a good thing. Yeah.
What?
1,000 awes.
Okay, good.
Adoration. Yeah.
Now he's a good dog. We got a special needs dog, but he's great. We adopted a dog from a shelter, right? He's deaf, so he doesn't bark. He doesn't chew. He came house trained, cat trained, people trained, baby trained, dog trained, uses the dog door, and sleeps like 18 hours a day. And I think he went to sleep. Yeah, you can kind of probably see him in maybe the corner over there. He's basically a stoner. Like, if this dog were a person, he would be blazed 24/7. It just doesn't move. Like, you can take him and pull the tail, pinch paws, ears. He's like, yeah, whatever. Sorry, off topic. We're on the dog. So, any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so since our class is creativity, kind of going on that, do you think there's any judge of creativity? And if so, who would be that judge of creativity?
Good one.
Hard question. The ultimate judge is if people like it. Like movie critics, art critics, all those people can get all kind of mad and say, like, well, I'll pick on like Adam Sandler movies are bad, whatever. People watch them. Somebody appreciates it, and the ultimate judge is people liking it. Now, if you want to be realistic about it, and of course, some things are inherently better or more quality than others. Like, I downloaded the despecialized editions of Star Wars to show my wife, because she'd never seen them before, instead of the new ones with all the weird CGI and Han dodging a bullet sideways and shooting second and dumb stuff like that. Because I know it's inherently better, but realistically, she probably would have enjoyed the new ones just as much. And it, you know, The measure is who wants to watch. That's kind of how I measure my YouTube. Like, I make things that I think are fantastic on YouTube. I'm like, this is the best video. This has a good message. This is well edited. People don't give a damn about it. I'm like, well, that didn't click. Clearly, something is wrong here. So it's all the other people. It's the eye of the beholder.
Earlier, you talked about briefly how you get like instant gratification when you play a video game, and there's this sense of when we read Reality is Broken, they talk a lot about how there's a system of collaboration and the sense that you can do anything and that everybody in the game is there to support you and you're instantly trusted, and there's this whole social complex that doesn't exist in reality, and that's both why people enjoy it so much, and two, why she argues that that is how we can change the future, because we can solve the world's problems by getting masses of people to game together because they'll believe in real solutions or impossible solutions that can actually be achieved in this virtual space. Do you think that that's true, or is it only true in certain types of games? Could that ever exist in a giant game like Call of Duty, or is that too idealistic?
Has she ever played an online game?
She creates them. She has a nonprofit.
Okay.
Professor. Yeah.
I kind of get what she's... I'm going to use League of Legends as an example here. For those of you, both in my chat and here, that are watching, it's a competitive game. You play 5v5. You pick these heroes. Like, some have range, some are melee, some are strong, some are magic or whatever. And you've all got your little abilities, and you're supposed to work together toward one goal. But it's very specialized. You each have a role, you each have a job, and you're supposed to do it a certain way. I kind of get what she's saying. You can jump in with 4 strangers on your team that you've never met, but they know their role and they know their job and they know how to do it. And ideally, most of the time, you'll all do what you're supposed to do and you work together and you can do some impressive things. That is not the case often or always, because dealing with masses of humanity with an anonymity online, they do crazy, unpredictable, random, and occasionally horrible or trolling things. I can't tell you how many trolls I've met online that exist only to destroy that great feeling of working together, and that's all that they do. Are we going to transcend humanity and cure all the world's problems with video games? Probably not. It's a good aggression valve, and there's definitely more international communication. I don't think it's like... She's probably thinking it's like The Matrix, or maybe like the book... have you ever read the book Forever Peace? I think it's a Heinlein book, if I'm not mistaken. A sequel to Forever War. They used a little thing where they linked their brains together, and once people could communicate like that, they were instantly peaceful. Except for 1% of them that would turn into monsters. So I think it's that 1% that ruins all of those good things that she's talking about.
That's a good point. Wonderful. Well, what does your chat have to ask for us?
All right, chat. Ooh, okay. I'm going to... It's like a minute or two of delay here. Chat, it is now time for you to ask the class questions. These can be either personal, because those are funny, or about the content, or something about what I've got going on. If it's horrible, terrible stuff, of course I'm not going to read it out loud. It's going to be filtered. We're going to keep it PG-13, and I'm going to read you the interesting questions, and it'll take just a minute to load. We have John Cena. Girl in the front is getting many compliments about her looks. Just thought you should know. Some are nice and classy. Some are less so. Okay. So the very first question I saw: what is the general opinion of your class on legalization of marijuana? There's like that's blowing up right now. We got a pro.
Are we a thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, are we just collaborating?
If you're pro, raise your hand. Well, I think most.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect from a college class. One guy wants your number. Girl in the front. Oh, okay. We have, how much was your tie, Professor? And where did you get it?
That's classified information. Yes.
What? Somebody wants to know, and this is for the girl in the back with the beanie thing. I can't... Nope. Oh, headscarf. Blonde-ish. Black shirt. Okay, this one's a little bit dirtier, but it's funny, okay? Are we okay with that? Okay. Somebody says, would you do a 3-way with John Cena and The Rock?
You don't have to answer.
He can do the John Cena Super Slam! Ah, terrible. Let's see. Professor, what is your favorite game?
Oh, I play a ton of games like you. I grew up with video games. Of all time, it would be Fable 1. Love that game so much. I mostly play Call of Duty and Rocket League now. So.
Gotcha. Okay, question for the entire class. What is your general opinion on Call of Duty? We'll maybe do like, we just like point and go person to person, like one sentence really quick, kind of. We can hit a lot of them.
Me? I don't play it.
Okay.
Doesn't play it.
Keep going. We'll just hit a few random ones. Just go, we'll do like turbo round.
What do you think?
Oh, I don't know if can you hear me?
I can relay it.
Okay, I like Call of Duty because I'm kind of aggressive. So, but I don't play a lot because I play around for my brothers because they take over.
Okay. If you can see her in the back, she says she likes it. She doesn't play a lot, but her brothers do, and yeah.
Okay, everybody wants to know what Scarf Guy thinks about Call of Duty.
I enjoy Call of Duty, but I don't always agree with a lot of the philosophy and ideology that's implied. So, yeah,
Gotcha.
mixed feelings on it.
Fun to play, probably.
Yeah.
We got a few other questions. Raise your hand if you plan to vote for Donald Trump.
Make fair.
Okay. So we're gonna do crunchy versus creamy peanut butter. Raise your hand for crunchy. All right. Oh, we got a neutral here. Let's see what's going on. Do you believe that jet fuel can melt steel beams?
You're the engineer. Why don't you tell us? Yeah.
So, honest answer on this, and this is going to send the chat into bananas mode.
Oh, no.
I have this toy dog that we're going to use as an example. It carries a load, like it's being bent or pushed on, like a beam, right? And it carries that. If I pour jet fuel on this and set it on fire, it will never melt, because melting point of steel is absurdly high. You need a furnace, right? But your material properties of metal change as they get hotter. Like the elasticity, the plastic point, the weight bearing, the shear force, all this kind of stuff. And as it gets hotter, it is less able to bear loads, and it starts to bend slightly. As it bends slightly, your angle of load goes from this to this to this, and the load gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and eventually it'll just pop. So it basically wasn't designed to carry weight at like 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and it collapsed. I think that's a relatively straightforward thing. Not everybody else agrees. Let's see. Xbox or PlayStation? Raise your hand for PlayStation. Okay, a lot of PlayStation.
We fight about this all the time. But
Okay.
yeah.
Any PC Master Race guys in here?
Oh, I do that too.
Let's see. What else do we have that's fun? Okay, we have a lot of questions on gun control. Anybody have any strong opinions on gun control they want to talk about on the internet?
I don't want to get shot.
Okay.
Honestly,
So I guess you're more or less pro gun control.
I think I'm pro common sense.
Okay.
Provocations. Let's go.
Let's see. Okay, we have evolution versus creationism here. So we'll do raise your hand if you believe in evolution. Okay, that's most of the class. Any creationists hiding in the class? All right. Actually, I want to hear from you, guy in the suit. General thoughts on why creationism is better or more inherent? No, in the back. Better or inherently more true than evolution? I'm not going to judge you now. Don't look at your phone or the internet here. But just tell me what you think. I'm interested. I just want to hear.
I mean, I think with a lot of issues like this, people really try to figure out what is truth and what is like actually right, which is what I believe everyone should be striving towards. I want to be striding towards what's true just as much as anyone else. But I just haven't found as much truth in evolution. And I guess the simple answer is I believe in creation just because I want to. Like, it just makes sense to me, and it's just what I believe. There's no super deep philosophical thing about it, why choose that over evolution. It just makes more sense to me, and I believe it. I don't hate or get in huge arguments with people who don't agree with that. I don't know. I believe it because I want to believe it. It's not like a huge thing for me.
That's fine. In my personal opinion, unless you're like working in the evolutionary biology department of this university, who cares?
Yeah, that's
Right. And apparently, if you don't argue with it, you're probably not from the Deep South. I've had many a dinners go awry when that topic comes up. Let's see. What do we have? Wheat bread versus white bread. Let's raise our hand for white bread.
White tastes better, wheat's better for you.
I think we have a largely wheat bread class here. All right, these are going really fast. Ooh, okay.
Yes, do that one.
Not all. You want me to do the one that I went ooh okay with?
Yeah.
Guy in the scarf. They said you look like a bad guy from Call of Duty. When was the last time you blew something up?
When was the last time you blew something up? Is what they asked.
I don't know.
At the Creative Factory, we did.
Yeah, we blew something up there. I was walking home from the bar a week ago. I got jumped by a homeless man, and he ended up calling me a Muslim terrorist, pretty much.
I'm sorry.
Clearly, they're terrorizing our university, stealing seats from our American students. I don't know who cares. Sorry, there's so much on the. Okay, milk or dark chocolate? We'll go. Raise your hand for dark.
Dark.
Both.
Yeah, put all that chocolate in my mouth. Any anime fans in the class? Anime fans. Okay, we got one. Got well-dressed man, kind of watches anime sometimes. By the way, guy in blue, why do you look so much like JCap? Nobody knows what JCap is. It doesn't matter. People laugh at it. Anybody with interesting opinions on the Black Lives Matter movement, especially seeing as how you're in university and we have attacks, fake attacks, bomb threats, banning student and major media outlets and lots of professors and lots of interesting things going on. So any strong opinions on Black Lives Matter? Anybody want to talk about that on the internet? Chirp. Unsurprising. No, it's Black Lives Matter is another one I can't talk about too much. Like race and racism. Rough. Like, that gets savage. Let's see. Favorite shooter games. Okay. Anybody got shooter games they want to talk about briefly?
GoldenEye.
That is a great one. Yeah. Doom, yeah. N64 version. CSGO.
Okay, who said CSGO?
Blue guy.
I knew it. What's your rank?
Gold Nova Master 2.
Nice. I'm less than silver. I'm like in Wood Division. I can't even headshot, man. Like, my best gun is probably, I think it's the Nova shotgun because I just spam at people. Bob Ross, okay, so you're having a dinner party with your family. You can either invite Bob Ross or Donald Trump. Who do you invite?
Ooh. I'm going Donald Trump because it'd be hilarious.
Trump, it'll be huge.
Huge.
That's
awesome. Yeah, better food, they said, yeah.
Lamborghini or Ferrari?
Lambo.
Wow, we have a class full of Lambos.
That's divisive. Here. No, it was split.
This is market research because you guys with the degrees, you're going to be the rich people in the future.
Yeah.
Hope.
Wait a minute.
No. Actually, I was getting ready to graduate right when that depression, recession, we didn't want to call it depression, recession hit in 2008. So, like, I started school, and they were like, oh, man, you get an engineering degree? Man, people are going to be fighting over, you're going to get, like, $60K guaranteed starting out, working anywhere you want, and upward mobility. Then that hits, and they're like, you know, there's a few jobs you can work as a tech for, like, $35,000. And, like, I think I'm just going to go to graduate school instead. Wait this one out. Thoughts on feminism? Anybody have any thoughts on feminism they want to share on the internet?
What kind of feminism?
I think that knowing the chat, they were probably talking about the crazy type.
Radical feminism?
Yeah.
I'm in a feminist philosophy class right now.
Ooh, that's got to tell me about that. That's got to be interesting.
No, I mean, it's actually, I think that all the material that we've read is really awesome, and I identified not as much as a feminist, just a humanist. Like, I think that all people should be treated the same, but so equally shitty, I guess. But but really. The material is great, and I think the discussions that they start out really great, and there's a willingness by 95% of the class, which is predominantly women, to have this discussion about gender identity and political and social causes and feminism and even historical causes and eventually philosophical causes. But there's always that trolling 1% that you talked about that tends to destroy the dialogue. In this instance, it's a couple of the girls in the class, I think, more or less. But realistic, I think that in the broader sense of it, when we're having this discussion, it's It's men and women alike. They just when you're too entrenched in one position, the dialogue breaks down. There's not a compromise. There's not a willingness to talk about something.
I'm glad that you have good classes like that at your university. The one I went to, those type of classes were not. I was supposed to take this Black History class, and I walked by it one day. I was supposed to take it next semester, and I decided to give it a listen. And I listened for 15 minutes about how the moon was created by white people, and it's a symbol of white power.
All right.
I decided not to take that class.
I think you have to drink beforehand.
I don't know. So we have a couple pancakes or waffles. Raise your hand for pancakes. Ooh, mostly a pancake class. Here's a fun one. Do any of you believe that esports should count as real sports?
Yeah, we had this discussion. They wrote a paper about this. Yeah.
Oh, but so or maybe you can summarize for them, or if anybody has any really good insights. Should esports count as real sports?
Yes.
I think the overwhelming majority said that they should. A lot of them didn't know what it was. So we watched some LOL gameplay and we had some students talk about it. But overwhelmingly, they had never seen it before. They saw the skill within it. They didn't say it was equal to other types of physical sports, but they said that it would be entertaining. It has an audience that's, like in your video you talked about, it has this huge, broad, global audience, so it does have the market potential, so yes.
People, I mean, if people are going to pay to see it, I don't know what's stopping it. We have some interesting questions. Should prostitution be legalized? Would that make the country better or worse? That's actually an interesting crossroads between morality, religion, women's rights, freedom of copulation, I suppose. Any strong opinions on the legalization of prostitution in this class?
It's a rough one.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I interrupted with some crudeness. Okay, we have a question for Guy in the Blue. Guy in the blue hoodie. This one is specifically for you. It says, do you believe in the Illuminati? And if so, what is their goal?
It's hard to say. I guess I do believe in it, yeah. It's on a dollar bill, right?
No. Do you believe it currently exists, or has it been phased out?
I think it's been phased out by other bands nowadays.
Okay. So you do believe in that old, like, Freemason kind of Illuminati-ish forming the United States type deal. By the way, have you guys seen the hidden owl on the US dollar?
No?
Yeah, you got to look this up. So an owl, I'm getting way off into conspiracy town, is a symbol of the ancient demon Lilitu, which we renamed to Lilith, which is in the Hebrew version of the Bible, Adam's first wife, and shows up as a demon in various parts of the Bible, but is symbolized by an owl. The Freemasons and the Illuminati and all this love this owl symbol. If you look, there is from the White House in Washington, D.C., from top down, it makes a picture of an owl, but they hit a tiny owl on a $1 bill. It's like in like one of the top right corners or whatever. It's super tiny, but it's no joke, still there. So, do you see it?
Dollar bill.
I don't know. Can you repeat all that?
I think it's on the back, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, let me look it up real quick on Google. I don't hope they haven't made new dollar bills. I haven't done cash in like forever.
The dollars are the new pennies.
So where is this thing at? No, it's on the front. It's on the top right of the front. It's on, if you look at, there's like this kind of crest around the dollar bill. If you look in the top left-hand corner of that crest, there's a very tiny owl sitting over there by the leaves. Do you guys see it?
Oh yeah,
we found it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Illuminati confirmed here on the stream. We've done it. We have a question. Who watches The Flash? I do.
I just finished it.
Oh no,
Are you up to date? Did you watch the most recent episode?
No.
That was the most bananas episode of The Flash I've ever seen.
Was it a crossover with Arrow?
Yes, but it was moving at like turbo speed. It was like 3 episodes compressed into 1.
That's sick. Do you watch Daredevil?
I watched the crap out of Daredevil. Now it's done.
Did you see the horrible Reddit meme about the first-person Daredevil game? It was just a black screen.
Oh no! The chat would like to remind you to return all of your money to the guy in the scarf at one point. All of the money. We have abortion questions. I'm not going to do those. Those tend to get a little bit ugly. Okay, here's one. Favorite Netflix original, movie or series? Anybody?
Master of None.
House of Cards or Daredevil?
House of Cards, Daredevil, Master of None.
What is Master of None? I haven't heard of that.
It's new.
It's new.
That's disease. Yeah, sorry, whatever.
Oh, Aziz Ansari. Yeah.
We have a question. Does anybody, male or female, need a sugar daddy? They are available for you here in the YouTube chat.
I'm gonna have to see some tax returns first. We'll see.
I've got student loans. Still.
Oh, here's a good one. Opinions on college safe spaces.
Like free speech safe spaces?
It's the opposite of that.
Okay.
The safe spaces where you can't, let's see, you might have, I think it was one of the students wanted to sue the school, or something happened because they felt the college was not providing a safe space for the students because it was at Yale. They allowed Halloween costumes that were like offensive or whatever, and the college didn't do anything about it, and they weren't creating safe spaces for the students and were therefore not following the charter. I don't know. So does anybody here believe that, of course I don't, so I'm putting you out already, that it's better to ban things that are offensive than it is to allow them to exist?
I mean, there are some really stupid people that talk, and I'm just horribly offended by them, but it doesn't mean I can get rid of them, I guess. You just kind of have to figure out how to tolerate that.
That's a very mature response. That's what the president of Yale said. We have a question about Anna Sarkeesian, if you guys have studied her. I think that was the feminism and tropes against women in gaming, the $400,000 for some YouTube videos. I'm a hater. I'm sorry. Any interesting thoughts on her or her project or anything? Anybody want to talk on that? Lots of chirps. Chirp, chirp.
I've seen all her videos. I studied a lot of feminist theory in grad school. But as much as I love her critiques, and I think that she has some valid points, I also don't find them very progressive or inclusive or moving towards a community of gamers that would actually do something positive together. It's just a common trope and critique I see in a lot of feminism that I'd like to see evolve.
Okay. I'm just kind of a hater because she got $400,000 to make some YouTube videos that I admit they're really well done, but that kind of just, that burns my bacon.
Yeah.
It does. All right, we're going to take a couple more questions and wrap this up. Does anybody here prefer watching soccer over football? Okay, we got a couple of hipsters. That's good.
The guy in the scarf definitely does.
Favorite optic player? Nadeshot. Nadeshot's a nice guy. Most of the optic guys are really nice. Like, most of the gamers and stuff are nice. Okay, so girl in the black shirt and the hair thing. Somebody wants to know if you want to Netflix and chill later. Okay. Opinions on flag burning. Should flag burning be illegal or not?
No. Should not be illegal.
Okay. Girl in the front, you got some compliments on your scarf as well. Nice ones. And here's a good one. Do any of you feel that college isn't worth it? Do you guys regret going for your degree at this point? Seniors, any of you wish you'd gone?
I regret college.
All right, I want to hear this.
So,
This is
forced to go to college, so I go. I mean, I feel like if you're going in the business field, it almost isn't worth it. It's about who you know and not what you know. If you know somebody high up in a business, you can get a job, and you can learn how to do that job. If you don't like it, you can move on or whatever. You can go back to college, but personally, I don't think it's worth it.
Please continue to preach this, because that's so true. So many jobs are given to who you know and not because you've got a degree. So props to you on speaking truth. Sorry about all the people throwing all the dirty stuff your way, and you speaking all this truth. All right, so I think that's going to be a good point to wrap this up in the stream and turn everything down. Any closing words for you, or anything you want to say to the whole of the internets before we turn it off and let it turn into a YouTube video where all of you will be until the end of time?
It's a big responsibility. I think just a big round of applause from everybody. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was fun, and it was... Oh, I got a peace sign back there. Yeah, it should make for a very interesting video on my channel, and honestly, more people have watched this than the last time I streamed a game, so I'm kind of impressed. It's interesting.
Drifter, I really appreciated it. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for your time and for letting us speak our perspective, and maybe we'll talk again.
Anytime.
Yeah.
See you around.
See you.
Thanks for paying, Tom.